I'm Pastor June Wilkins of Gethsemane Lutheran Church, and we're a member of BREAD. Right now, the city of Columbus works very well for a few people. It works for the well-to-do. It works for the economically comfortable. It works for people who already have housing. It mostly works for rich, middle-class white people like me. But as Bishop Scale says, Columbus is the second most economically divided city in our country. And let's not pretend. In our country, economic division is racial division. And those divisions have been intentionally enforced over hundreds of years, making the city work for only a few instead of for everyone. But imagine a city that didn't just work for the few, but for the many. BREAD has laid out a roadmap for real change in our city. Systemic change that can get at the root of inequality. Changes that would address gun violence, restorative practices in our schools, jobs in economically disadvantaged neighborhoods, affordable housing, and others. A change that would be real change. Real change.
Wow.
BREAD's plan for curbing gun violence starts with shifting away from over-policing and toward helping people who are at risk, redirecting young people away from violent gangs where most of the gun violence in our city originates, and toward social services that would provide job training and security. This has worked in cities like Paterson, New Jersey, and it can work here. It has improved the lives of many individuals in the inner city and has made it a better, safer city for all people. That would be real change. 3 schools in the Columbus City school system have been using the Restorative Practices program promoted by BREAD. Just 3 schools. And they have reduced suspensions by 500. That's 500 times a teacher didn't have to stop teaching to address a discipline issue. That means more young people in the class learning and not in the street. That's more children who have been taken out of that suspension to prison pipeline that has plagued our city in the past. Imagine if all our Columbus schools used restorative practices instead of just resorting to punitive suspensions. That would be real change. And instead of just hoping that entrepreneurs will invest in our neighborhoods, which often results in gentrification and outpricing the poor from their own homes and neighborhoods, BREAD has a plan for worker-owned businesses in some of our most economically depressed neighborhoods. Imagine keeping people living in their neighborhoods and working in their neighborhoods. BREAD is working so that factories and other commerce have reason and incentives to move into our neighborhoods. That would be real change. Imagine a city where everyone could get a municipal ID, where no one was left out of so many basic services just because they were homeless, or they had moved, or they were an immigrant, or they had lost their birth certificate. That would be real change. And imagine a city where the life expectancy of those in the poorest zip codes was the same as those in the richest zip codes, and people were not robbed of 27 years of life just because of where they live. And imagine that the loneliest elderly people would not just have to resort to calling 911, where a paramedic call would connect them up with a social worker and the basic services already offered by our city and county. That would be real change. And we know that without stable housing, people do not have stable lives. And so many people in Columbus simply cannot afford the housing available. Because of BREAD, the city and county have put $11 million a year into affordable housing, which is wonderful. But that is not enough. That still leaves 54,000 families spending more than half of their income on housing. Imagine if we could increase the number of affordable housing units in Columbus. If we could give every family in Columbus an affordable place that they could live and thrive in this city. We know that more affordable housing means more stability, more people keeping jobs, less crime, more children learning in school. That would be real change. Imagine a city that worked for everyone. A city that wasn't divided between rich and poor, white and black, young and old. Imagine a city for all of us. We have a roadmap for systemic improvements in Columbus, and it starts with the mayor sitting down with us and starting the conversation. Meet with the people of faith who make up bread, Mayor Ginther, and let us start the process for making real change in our city. Real change.
Yeah.
Bread
rises.